Hey everyone, welcome back to Buzzworthy. I'm your host, Shlacey Harris. I dive into the rare stories entrepreneurs tell about building their businesses, but most importantly, themselves. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome back to Buzzworthy. Today we have Monique Thompson with us of Modeen Events. She curates fashion shows, galas, and corporate events, and she brings her own spin to it. Monique's backstory is very similar to what we might think a typical entrepreneur looks like, but there's a unique aspect to everyone's story. So we will jump right in it with Monique today. Monique, welcome.
Hi, Shalizia. Thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. So I've already promised the people we've got some good stories here today, which we do. And one of the first things I really like to start off with our entrepreneurs is, what do you think set you up to eventually becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh, that is a very, very good question. And um my answer to that is just divine alignment. Honestly. No one could have told me years ago that I would be sitting in this position right now as a full-time entrepreneur. It was never on my trajectory in my career to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be a full-time entrepreneur in event planning. And it just naturally, organically happened. And I'm so happy that it happened. What sets you up for entrepreneurship? I think everybody's story is different. For me, like I said, divine alignment, it was the right time
Mhm.
to jump on this journey. Everything happened right when it was supposed to. Like I've always been in events, from
Mhm.
younger. Well, I should probably say, I am born and raised in Jamaica. Came up here grade eight in
Great.
Canada. Yeah, and I've been in Hamilton, guess Stony Creek, for how old am I now? I don't want to talk about age,
No, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
That's that's okay. That's okay. I'm almost 40. I'm 38, and I've been here since about grade eight. You're about 12 or 13, right? Puberty.
Something
Yeah,
like
but
that, I think.
it's so,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
wasn't. Yeah, and I went to Tapley Town for a year, and then I went to Stofley High School. And I went to McMaster University, proud, alumni of that school. So I've been in Hamilton for quite a while and been involved in the community for a long time. My parents were involved in ACA, Afro
Mhm.
Canadian Caribbean Association.
Yeah, I
Um,
know.
and and as youth, wherever your parents go, you are too. So I was working with Mr. Lloyd Turner, and as a youth coordinator for the youth group, and so I've been involved in the city for quite some time in different nonprofit organizations with different events. But I never thought that that was what I was going to end up doing. I I
Yeah.
was always doing it, but never really like officially like, okay, yeah, this is where I'm gonna stay. I went to McMaster University to pursue political science originally because I wanted to do law.
Hmm.
And it's a very heavy course in terms of a lot of essay writing and you know, a lot of it admin and different things that I wasn't really kind of so passionate about. I love to speak and engage in all the things, but there's so much that comes in the political sphere that it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just go through trial and error like most youths. You kind of test it out, went to school for this, but is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Probably not.
Mm.
So
So
then I
what did
pivoted.
you So you said you were interested in law and you went to school for political science. Hopefully you're going into law.
Yeah.
So was that your goal or was that, the typical immigrant parent thing where it's like you're going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever it is? Like what was
Yeah.
was that about?
No, no, my parents were always very supportive with, I guess, mo everything that I've pursued. I've always been an ambitious person. When I remember as young as maybe be like 6, 7, I was like, I'm going to be a pediatrician. Um, and I just said I wanted to do that until I got to high school, and then I did biology. And I'm like, biology is okay, but me and chemistry, we don't go together. Any other maths and sciences, I was just like, okay, you get that reality check, right? Through exposure, like, okay, maybe this is not for me because I'm not passionate in that space. I'm not interested in that. And I excelled more in law and history and English, oratory things. Like, I'm a good speaker,
Mhm.
public speaking, and I'm a people person. So that's kind of what was easy for me. And so I kind of flowed in that way.
Mm.
Rather than fighting something and being like, I truly did not like math. I was okay with biology, but in terms of like pursuing sciences, I knew that wasn't my ministry. So I was just kind of like, no, I'm just going to do what I like. And
Yeah.
I've always been a child that would I listen and listen, but I always negotiated, right? Like, okay, you're saying no, but why are you saying no? What is the
That's
reason behind it?
that's
Like
curiosity.
it's curiosity. And Caribbean
Yeah.
parents, I thank God for my parents. They weren't always they were strict, but they would entertain my inquiry and be like, they would explain. I didn't get in trouble a lot, but I did question. I didn't have that fear of like I can't ask my parents things. So I asked questions, and a lot of the times, if I challenged it and it was a good challenge, I would often win that battle, right? So I was a good negotiator. So law was definitely like something that I was like, okay, I could be a lawyer, and the sky's the limit. I could even still be a lawyer right now. There's nothing stopping
Absolutely.
anyone from pursuing
Yeah.
anything. But that's originally kind of what I wanted to do after I did political science at Mac.
Hmm.
Um, but, as these things go, as you get to the third and the fourth year, you get burnt out, right? And I remember telling my mom, like, Mom, after school and I graduate, I'm just gonna take a break and I'm just gonna work for a little bit and then go into law school. And she told me, don't stop now because you're gonna lose momentum. I was like, no.
Yeah.
And parents are usually, later on in life you realize that parents are wise.
Yeah.
And but I don't regret taking the break because it did allow me to go into different spaces for customer service, right? Like, so once I was
Yeah.
done, I went and jumped into the workforce. I really didn't like debt. I got some
Mhm.
scholarships and things like that. So I wanted to kind of like clear up the student loans and buy my car and do those things. But
Yeah.
through working in the industries, I've learned not to minimalize different work experience. Um, Customer service is a really, really, really important skill set to
Yeah.
have, and that's what's keeping me that's why I'm thriving in the space that I'm at right now because you
Absolutely.
have you have to have customer service
Yeah.
skills, you have to have emotional intelligence, you have to have problem solving skills, and these are not innate things that you just have. You have to go through different
Experiences. Yeah.
experiences, yeah, to develop that. So
Yeah.
I don't regret any of my journey. I think everything that I did was for a reason and it brought me here. So I think, like I said, entrepreneurship for me is divine alignment, and I'm in the right place at the right time to do the right thing.
Amazing. I love so much of that because one, it's not a linear path that we take. And I think for every entrepreneur that is very similar. And a lot of what you've done, from learning to negotiate, understanding now retrospectively that, customer service is super important. I actually think everybody should work in customer service in
Yes.
some capacity in any job that they have, because ultimately it's just about how do you treat people? How do you navigate different people and experiences? Because we can't go through life in isolation, only dealing with ourselves. And now, obviously, things are being challenged a little bit with AI coming in, and people might become even more isolated. But I think a customer service role, one, gives us the appreciation of people, help us build those key skills. Like negotiation isn't just for lawyers, right? Like
No, it's
it's for
not.
your job, it's for anything you want in life. And especially as an entrepreneur, when you have to ask for what you're worth, and then your customers are always trying to knock your value down by how
Yes.
much you're charging, and you have to build those negotiation skills from very early on to be like, no, this is how much I charge because this is the value that I deliver.
That's exactly right. I'm happy that you brought that point. And that muscle of negotiating your worth is something that it's at least for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, it's a muscle that I'm still learning to build.
Hmm.
Especially when you're newer in a career space or um, uh, a industry that
Hmm.
you haven't done before. I um my my extensive career is actually in insurance. And how I even ended up in that is similar to well, not similar to event planning. Event planning I always did unofficially.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like it came into its own. But with insurance, I remember I was maybe 27, 28. I wasn't 30 yet. And I was kind of like doing customer service roles. Like I was always kind of like in different companies, either doing escalations and, like I said, I have that ability to either speak people off of a ledge when they're really high on like, they're upset about
Yeah.
something. And it's not to match their energy. It's kind of like to be the the antithesis of what they're there. So if they're on 10, you kind of just want to be at a 5 and
Yeah.
just
And
listen. Like
ground it.
yeah, you don't want to match their 10. You want to kind of be at a 5 and just listen because at the end of the day, they just listen. They just want to complain. They just want to vent. And once they get it out, then you get to the root cause of what the issue is and how can we solve it, right? It's not to go
Hmm.
back and forth, right? So with insurance, and I kind of wanted to be in a career. I was like, I'm not in a career. I'm almost 30. I really just want to get settled, right? That level of settlement. Like I need to get a career and be stable so that I can afford to buy a house. And so you get into that mindset.
Hmm.
Um, but at the heart of it, customer service is what I kind of really honed in on, even in that industry. I didn't do sales. I'm not
Hmm.
a sales is a whole different beast. Sometimes well, not sometimes. Sales is always feast or famine, and I had that level of anxiety with like if I'm selling, it's just going to be I won't have enough money for this, and so I kind of settled in the service aspect of insurance. So I managed a book of business. I did renewals. I did group benefits, things that were very low risk averse,
Yeah.
so that I could, afford all the things and be secure in like, okay, I know for sure I'm going to have that level of income. But what I did gain, like I said, is the so much different levels of understanding with different markets. You have they call it VIP clients or private clients where
Yeah.
they have a certain amount of money. So you treat them with white glove service.
Hmm.
So their properties are millions of dollars. So when they call, you answer. Whenever you're looking for certain things, you have to be proactive. You call them and let them know that, hey, there's a problem on the horizon. Let's mitigate, right?
Yeah.
So that they know that you're taking care of them, you're looking after them. And the same thing for my events, for my clients. A lot of them are corporations and companies, and
Yeah.
they are. This is if it's a nonprofit, it's very special to them as well. Although the budget might not be so huge, it's for the community. And a lot of just because we're a lower budget doesn't mean we have to deliver a low budget event.
Event. Yes.
Right, right, right. So you always want to make your client know that I am looking out for the best interest of this event and your corporation, and not only that, the attendees, that when they come, they know that we curated this event specifically for you. It will never be a waste of your time to
Yeah.
attend. There will always be some level of takeaway, and there is that value add that they will always get. So um, I can't stress enough about people skills, and loving people. If you don't like people, there's just certain industries you shouldn't be in, and you can kind of tell. Um, Also, with events, and there's just so many spaces that you can go into.
And
For me, like,
specialize. Yeah.
you can specialize. Like, for me, I'm
Hmm.
a people focused person. I can do pretty little table settings and styling that way.
Hmm.
And if that's your focus, you don't need to be an event planner. You're an event stylist. Like, you just come in and you style the tables, and you do the decor, and you don't have to deal with the clients as much. That's not me. I've always wanted to be the person that you give me your thoughts, and you give me your vision, and
And
we
you
talk
bring it
about
to
it.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, we talk
Yeah. And you
about it.
bring
And
it to life.
exactly, I never just take the credit and say, well, I did that. How could I just do that? I didn't know what you were thinking. You told me what you were thinking, and we worked on it. And, I used some of my expertise and my finesse, my special sauce, my jazz, me, and executed it. From vision to execution is a process, and I
Absolutely.
think that's
Absolutely.
I think it is, right, and I think that's what my purpose is. Um, Now I
Let's
found
go
my
back.
purpose.
Let's go back a
Yeah.
little though, because you fast forward through the story a little bit for us, and there are a couple of things I want to touch on. So you talked about being
Okay.
in the insurance industry, and
Yeah.
working and sort of looking for something that was stabilizing at that point for you and the life that you wanted. And something
Yeah.
had to go wrong before you decided, okay, this isn't for me anymore.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is it? And because I mean, some people do wake up one day and just like, no, that's it. But tell us about that transition because a lot of people are actually stuck in that place where they're not happy with whatever their status quo was at the point, even though that might have been something that they wanted. And that is something you wanted at that time was that stability, that predictability that comes
Yeah.
with a job and a paycheck every 2 weeks, sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
so what was the real pain of being in that space that wasn't fulfilling for Monique that eventually, you know, became Modeen Events?
Yeah. That's a really good question. And I'm happy that you brought me back to that. Um, as you said, when I jumped into insurance, I literally was just kind of transitioning in between jobs, and I saw an ad. I think it was on Indeed, and it was to fill a mat leave. And I was just like, well, let me just try. It was at Allstate, and they were trying to fill a customer service role, a CSR role, at Allstate in Stony Creek here. And I just randomly applied. I'm like, let me see. And they called me back, I think within a day. He was a great office manager. His name was Greg, but he was actually like retiring on his way out. And he called me and he's like, Monique, why do you want to get into insurance? And I was very honest. That's one thing about me. I'm gonna say overly honest, but like, I'm not a good liar, right? Like any, the mentalist and all those people, like
Yeah.
I could read me easy. So I told him, like, honestly, I'm heading into my 30s. I've never had like an actual like career. Like, I've been in customer service. I went to Mac for this, and I kind of want to try. And he said, okay. Well, you're gonna have to get your OTL license to eventually do the role. So are you okay with having to get that and so on and so forth? And I said, yeah, I want to try. And he gave me a
Mhm.
shot. And I went through the OTL licensing. So you have to have a license to speak with clients about their
Yes.
insurance products and needs. And
Hmm.
as a direct writer, I'm only writing business for Allstate.
Hmm.
And so that's how my career started with Allstate. And I thought, like, I honestly thought that she wasn't going to come back from her mat leave, right? It was, she extended to like 18 months and I got a little bit comfortable and she came back for her job and they were like, we don't have any space in this office, but we have somewhere in Markham. And I was not going to drive all that way. So I said, let me switch over to the brokerage side, which is like, you get to work with more insurance companies.
Yeah.
And quickly I realized within the insurance space, at least recently, I don't know about long term, you don't have people that work in one company anymore for 30 years. Um, Gone are the
High
days where anyone
turnover.
is loyal.
Yeah.
Yeah, high turnover. And it's mostly the brokers themselves where we will just bounce around for um, a higher paying role because there's more money in new hires than retaining employees, unfortunately. And a
Yeah.
lot of the times too, it's not just a money thing for me as well. It was my interest. Not that I get super bored easily, but once I don't master, I wouldn't say master, but once I kind of get the hang of something, I kind of know if I want to do this for long term or not, and then I kind of pivot. So I moved fairly quickly through insurance, and I never got to a space where I was like, I know everything, but I had a understanding that this is not something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Not enough
Um,
learning in that space for you, right?
e-
And that becomes a
yeah.
problem.
Yeah, like I mean, insurance there's always something new. It's really interesting. I jumped
Mhm.
from personal lines, home and auto, and claims are just, it's a whole beast. There's like every claim you think that might be the same, everybody's story is different in terms of like what's going on, how it's going to get solved. But it's high stress and it's not really 9 to 5. A lot of it says 9 to 5, but I felt myself doing a lot more. Um, I was pouring a lot into these roles and I wanted more leadership roles. And unfortunately, if you don't have a supportive manager or things like that, then it limits your potential within that company.
Growth trajectory, absolutely.
It,
Yeah.
yeah, it limits it. So I didn't really feel as supported. And then once I kind of got the understanding like you're not going to go much farther, like I said, I kind of just not, God was like, this is no longer for you, and He removes it. When I said divine alignment in the beginning, I have to be very clear. I am Christian, and so a lot of the things that we fight to keep, God will remove from us because it no longer serves you. You're no longer supposed to be here, and you can fight it all you want, but you're just going to be a detriment to yourself. Your mental health will suffer. You won't be happy. You'll encounter things like imposter syndrome. That's the new hot topic, right? Where people are saying they're suffering from imposter syndrome because you're not aligned with what you're supposed to be doing. So you're never going to feel like
Comfortable
you're
in the
supposed
space
to.
that
Yeah,
you're in. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, you can pretend it all you want to, but at a certain point, you have to be real with yourself and say, this is not for me. And also, it's not fair to the company, because there's some people that will dedicate their lives to a company and will have that level of like, this company is I need to do this for them, and that is I guess what you would call the right fit for the
Yeah.
company, right? Whereas there's other people that are a bit more, they're entrepreneurial and they'll never walk the straight line as somebody that is solely devoted to that company. So
The risk
that's
tolerance is different, right? And I
yeah,
think the purpose is also different because not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur. If we all had entrepreneurs, we would have nobody supporting businesses, and nobody helping these businesses grow because an entrepreneur
yeah,
cannot be successful on their own. Like there is always a
Mhm.
support system in place,
Yeah,
whether that's employees, mentors, all of
that's
that.
it.
And you definitely, you try to create that environment where, I'll call it a traditional route of building a life and creating a life that you want. And now you're going from that and, you know, into Modeen Events. What
Hmm.
happened the day of or the day before that you decided to sit down and say, Modeen Events, here we come?
Yeah, it was so a few different things.
Hmm.
People always spoke into me
What does
before
that mean?
I people speak into me like they would say things, even coworkers from not just my last job or from almost every job, they would always tell me like you're not going to be here long.
Oh, interesting.
Always. They're
Hmm.
like, you're not gonna be here long. I'm like, why? You heard something? Am I getting fired? They're like, maybe, but they're like, no, we think you're either gonna leave or it was just always, they always saw me as a different entity outside of the company. It was never going to be like Monique is gonna end up being the VP of this company. Not that I didn't have the potential or the capabilities, but they always just saw me in a different light than I saw myself. And I was always like I was telling you, I want the security, I want the traditional, like, I'm just gonna rise in the rankings in the corporate and work hard and get there. And other people always would say that to me, like, I don't think you're gonna be here long, like you're just not meant for this kind of um
Environment. Yeah.
industry. Like my personality is just not that of it. Like for instance, like I will go into work and just talk, right? Because I can work from home. Why am I here? I'm
Hmm.
here to connect with people, right? Like not just to sit in front of the computer so you can watch me work, but I'm here to network with my colleagues. I'm here to talk to somebody in a different department because I don't know who Bob in commercial is. And so, that's the whole purpose of kind of getting to work in an office space so I can know who my coworkers are and what they do in that department and things like that. So that's how I see why I'm in the office. Whereas my manager might think is like, no, you're in the office to satisfy those 2, 3 days that you're supposed to work in office and sit there and type, right? So I don't think traditionally in that way. So people always spoke that into me. But when I decided to do Modeen events, it was through prayer. The I decided January of 2024. So I'm 1 year in terms of like when I decided, but I registered my business and actually started doing the things April 2024. So I'm almost 1 year in officially.
Wow.
Yeah,
Congrats.
almost. Thank you. Thank you. Almost 1 year in. And I remember it's good to have friends that you pray with, right? And people that kind of hold you accountable to when you mention something, so they will listen, but then they always say, okay, well, what's the next step, right?
Mhm.
And that friend for me is Lohifa, and you know Lohifa as well, right? So we had prayers end of December, and we were praying about our purpose. And one of the things I just have had the hardest time, that's probably my hardest battle was figuring out what I was created to do, what my purpose is in life. And we're praying about purpose. And I really just wanted to have clarity on what God wanted me to do and how I was going to do it. And it wasn't like an aha moment, but it was just kind of like, it just slowly kind of comes.
Comes to you.
And
Yeah.
it comes. And originally I was just, because I like photos, right? I like taking photos. At any event, I will be the person who ask Monique, she probably got the photo, right?
Mhm.
I'm slower to post and do things like that, but I love to capture the moment. So originally I thought I was gonna do like just a photo booth or something like at events where I would capture the moments and share them that way and start off that way. But then um it it just kind of really took on a life of itself. It just manifested. And what happened was, again, with Lohifa, I mentioned it to her and she said, okay, Momo, I think like the first step, create your email, your Instagram account, or, get that motion going.
Yeah.
And she herself was starting a new book club, her and Claire Warner.
Mhm.
It's called Colorful Conversations, and she was going to launch it. And she said, "Momo, I want you should make your business cards, create your business cards, and you can present this at launch it at my book club." And surely enough, that's what I did. I got my first set of business cards from Staples, went to the event, and everyone had to introduce themselves. And I introduced myself, and I was like, I know everybody here, but just let you guys know I'm doing events and now and so on and so forth. And Ashley Montague from Black Owned Hammond, she was
Mhm.
there.
Also, one of
And
our guests.
oh, okay, awesome. Ashley's great. She heard me and she's like, Monique, I was just telling you about, Black owned doing our inaugural gala, so on and so forth. And I didn't know you were doing this now, but let's connect. And through just mentioning that right off the bat, that ended up being my first official event. So I that was February of 2024. So I decided, made the decision in January, mentioned it to my close friend. She said, okay, let's get it started. Get your business cards. You announce it here. I announced it right away. There was interest. By June, I worked at Black Owned to deliver their first inaugural Brewing Success Gala that we did at the Art Gallery of Hamilton.
Mhm.
And so that was my official launch into this like, okay, I can do these big events. I can do these inaugural events actually have become my niche. Most of the companies I've worked with,
Yeah.
it's been inaugural. So I've worked with Black Owned. I did their inaugural brunch. I worked with Empowerment Squared. I did their symposium. That was inaugural. I worked with Excel and Style, Lohifa's new organization, and that was inaugural. And that so that seems to be kind of where God has been putting me.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, that's a pretty long answer to what you were asking, but I I pivoted from insurance because there was an alignment, and it was also capturing a need in the space of event planning, where um, I don't think I don't think their events would have. I'm not trying to say that they would have not been successful. I think they would have been successful. However, I think the vibe and the soul and the collaboration behind it um, is what I added to the success of the event, right?
For sure. I think a lot of people underestimate what it takes to execute a phenomenal event. And then, two, I think it's always a little bit different and a lot more stressful when you have to be hosting the event and be the person there to make sure everyone's having a good time, but also sweating all the details of the event at the same time. And I think it's a space where a lot of people, especially people that want to do inaugural events, they often might think, I'm just going to do this myself, but really putting it in the hands of someone else like yourself creates an
Yeah,
opportunity where they can sit back and see the vision come to life and also
yeah.
not sweat it, but be in that moment to also celebrate that inaugural event for themselves as well. And I think that's what you bring to this space.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And the unique space of being inaugural, again, it's the first. So there's no precedence prior to for that organization. So there's a lot of angst and anxiety as to, especially if it's a fundraising initiative, like one, are we going to meet our goals? Are we going to satisfy the sponsors? And there's a lot of different elements to pulling to the event. You want to make sure that the sponsors that, if they sponsored a table, that it's well attended, that they have visibility, um, that there's also an established relationship for the next time. And because I don't really have like a template as to how I should do this for this exact company, it gives you so much creative freedom
Mhm.
to kind of connect with your client and say, you know what, I think this is how we should do it. It's never going to be the exact same for every company. And uh, also the pressure to deliver on the inaugural events are all, historically, wouldn't say they're not the most attended sometimes because people are like, I don't really know what this event is about. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. So they're like, I'll just sit this one out. And then maybe I'll go next year. And anyone who did that for Black owns, for their brewing success, they missed big. And we heard it for months after the event, like, oh my God, I didn't know it was going to be like that. And I didn't know it was going to be like this. And, I should have just went. So, that sets the organization up for the next time around. It's like, okay, I can't miss this because this is how last year was. And that's kind of really what I want. It's not a me thing. I really want to leave my clients on like a good standing so that the next year they do it with or without me, that they are at least have a template to say, okay, we did it this way. There's always going to be room for improvement. Even if the event was super successful, you can always do better.
Oh,
Um,
for sure, for sure. And
yeah,
I hope they hire you again because if you're going to set the standard, you're going to deliver exceptional service. I would expect absolutely they bring you back for another year and for more and more events.
for more and more events, and hopefully that is the case. But if not, I'm always kind of, if not, I'm always going to be um the inaugural curator for this, right? So you never did this before, and you did that, and I set the precedent. um so I'm very proud of myself in terms of doing things I never thought one I'd be able to do, being
I
in
love that.
spaces I never thought I was going to be in, and being trusted with projects that I am kind of like, oh, okay, I can do this, right? And then just and delivering. For me, I think my favorite part of event planning is execution. I don't care who planned what, even if I get brought in at the very tail end of the planning. um, my job to execute is to bring everything together and make sure that it works so
Mhm.
that the caterers arrive on time, that the stylist knows what the vision is so that they can do their jobs properly. The guests arriving and even small details that we think are small, like for instance, the Art Gallery of Hamilton is center of downtown. Parking is an issue. And finding parking is very frustrating when you have an event that's at a certain time. So to be running around and spinning the block, I already know that the person entering in the space is probably going to be a little bit stressed out coming into the space. So how do we create that level of calm and when they're walking in, also giving information in advance, letting people know, hey, we're starting on time, so make sure you come on time. Here's where parking is. You can find parking here so that there is no guesswork and running around and extra stress for the attendees if you give information in advance, so that they know to prepare. Maybe they won't wear heels that day because they're gonna walk for 10 minutes to the event. Um, Small details like that you think are maybe irrelevant makes a huge difference in the guest experience.
Most definitely. And as an event planner, like you have to think of so many different people, right?
Yeah,
And you have to please everyone and it is very chaotic. So you're really, the organizer of all this chaos to execute on an experience that's going to become very, very memorable. And I think when we look back at, your story that you shared with us, there's so many things that, it seems that you're really good at making decisions and pivoting. And once you've made that decision, you kind of stick with it. And and what I think I see in you through this journey is
yeah,
having the ability to take a leap of faith. And what's really interesting to me is in your late 20s, you were really looking for stability and small risk and or no risk at all. And now you've gotten
It's
to this
big risk.
place that it's big
Yeah.
risk. It's
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
risk in every capacity, from
It
being an
is.
entrepreneur, from taking on people's inaugural events, because
Yeah.
sometimes our visions don't match what we can actually afford and execute. So, how do you manage those expectations? And your skills from customer service obviously comes in times of
Yeah.
managing those experiences and expectations. And what I think is
Yeah.
really incredible about entrepreneurs is that, you know, we have to value, and you talk about value in every experience you've had along the way that's
Yeah.
led you to being where you are, and trusting the process and trusting when you have to move into a different space. And I think that's really incredible. And even with your coworkers, not necessarily seeing you as belonging in the spaces with them for an extended period of time. Maybe that was a
Hmm.
good thing, because maybe you just simply had to create a space, and maybe
Yeah.
subconsciously that's what you're doing for people when you create these inaugural events, is creating a space where everyone can truly feel like I belong here for the entire
Yeah.
duration of this event until the end. And um I think it's incredible, and you have a phenomenal story. I had no idea it's not even been a year yet
It's not even been a
since
year, and
since you
everything has,
started.
yeah. You know what? I think, a lot of what is a part of the success is communication. Not just with not just with your clients and different things, but also with creating systems of communication. And what I'm saying is that, like, okay, as a broker, I had to like be proactive and reach out to my clients to let them know the risk factors and all the things. And that trickled over into the event spaces where your client, although they're paying you to do an event, there's so many different aspects and different service lines that you will be doing unofficially.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm going to be the counselor. You
Hmm.
know, I have to talk them off of a bridge. Sometimes I just want to cancel the event. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too stressful. Our company, so on and so forth. And it's kind of like, but when will be a better time to do it? And there's those sometimes billable hours that you don't bill for, just to guide your clients. Communicating, I've learned sometimes just a lot of emails just to make sure that there are um, things to go back to read, because verbal conversations, people forget what they
Oh,
told you
yeah.
that they wanted. I would forget what you told me that you wanted. There's so many lapse in memories because everybody's busy and everyone's doing all the things. And one of the worst things that I've experienced through my official time in event planning is just when there's a huge gap in communication, um, because of just uncommunicated expectations, that they thought you knew, or that I thought you know what I mean? It's just all these uncommunicated things that sours the experience.
Absolutely.
So, and that's in every industry, I'm sure, that if there is an expectation that is uncommunicated, whose fault is it?
Yeah.
Because on the
It's
contract, if
a little
there's
bit of everybody's fault, but on the contract,
yeah, but
it's your fault.
yeah, on the contract, if you said, yeah, that's what the contract says, but then there's some other things that are like, well, I thought you would do this because this and this. I'm like, no, that's what you thought. That wasn't communicated. Right. So I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is to maybe over communicate. Um, Even if one of my things is that I don't like bugging people. I'm not a like I don't like sending several emails about the same thing. I don't want to annoy you, but at the same time, I have to do my job. And if I don't communicate to you and I don't deliver what you wanted, that's my fault because I should have asked or I should have, you know. Um, but within the 1 year, if there was a question about what do you want to work on next or what is
Yeah.
your
Tell us
your next steps,
what's
for
next for
me,
you.
I really am honing in on creating my own systems as to how Modeen Events does things from beginning to end. My background is I've always been hired. I've always been the employee, not the employer. And so I go into spaces with their, rules and guidelines already created for years, and then they just train you and they tell you how they run their company and they give you their what do you call it, their key performance indicators as to how you should perform and KPIs, sorry.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I do it. Now I don't have that. I'm my own boss and I get to make my own rules, and how am I going to be successful if I don't have any
Structure.
guidelines or
Yeah.
structure? And so I'm realizing that's huge. And also, as an entrepreneur, you need it so that one client doesn't get like the white glove service and the other one gets left in the dust because I'm not consistent with how I'm delivering. I want to be consistent. I want to make sure that Modeen Events, the experience is white glove service all around. Even if it's a smaller um, community event or if it's a huge fundraising gala, it'll be a systematic process where my clients feel um, secure that I'm going to deliver on what it is that they're hiring me for. So, and my branding, oh my gosh, Alicia, that's such a hard thing. I didn't know. I
Yeah.
didn't
It is.
know how branding is so important. It's expensive. It's time consuming.
Yeah.
It's and it's the biggest thing that I underestimated.
But it's a living thing, right? I think especially as an entrepreneur and especially within this space right now, because you're a newer entrepreneur, you've been doing this for about a year now. Um, your brand is who you are. You can think of it as a person, and that brand is gonna evolve as you evolve, and you're gonna set
Yeah,
the precedent. You've selected a niche now. You want to do net new events, bring brand new ideas to life, and that's a
yeah,
really hard thing to do, and that's part of your brand. And so I think people think your brand is just your logos, your colors, the phrases you use, but it really is a full experience and it's a living thing that's going to
yeah,
evolve over time. And you are right. It's hard to brand, especially in the beginning, because you don't want to create something that's so solid and so foundational that if the world changes in any capacity, you have to start at
yeah,
scratch again. Um,
yeah,
you are right. Branding is incredibly difficult, but consistency is key, right?
yeah, yeah,
Just like with any person, if they're consistent with you, you can say, yes, this person is this. If your
yeah,
brand is consistent in delivering exceptional events that are fun, that are on time, that have
right,
great
yeah,
food, that are beautiful,
yeah,
that becomes an incredible part of your brand as well. So the more you do,
yeah,
I would say, don't sweat it too much. Um,
yeah,
Authenticity is everything, especially in a world where we live on social media and everything is so curated. Um,
yeah,
bring in an authentic
heck, yeah,
experience to people and being real about who your company is, what you do, what you stand for is, I think, absolutely incredible.
yes, I 100% agree. And you're right about the whole not being so stiff and rigid in like what that branding looks like right now, because you do have to shift a little bit and change as the world goes. And so
Yeah,
I'm open as well in terms of I do want to be in corporate. I want to stay in that space, and inaugural seems to be my niche right now. But am I going to say no to something that's not inaugural? No, I won't.
exactly.
Uh, I won't say no, but I have a certain set of principles and morals and things like that. So there's not probably, but they are. I don't say yes to every event if it doesn't align with myself as a person as well, right? I think that's very key to everybody doing an event. You kind of want to hire who is the best fit for you.
Yeah.
Um, Outside of everything, you need somebody that aligns with your company and that you can see yourself working with, and that there's an ease and a peace of mind and a level of trust um, for the process. So, yeah, there's tons to learn, but I'm excited um, about the trials and errors I'm going to come into. I'm excited for all the work that is going to be done in Hamilton. There's so much community. There's so much community, and yeah, I'm just excited overall. And even through community, like we met like a couple weeks ago, and we just hit it off at you know, an event that I was it's not my first time attending those events, right?
Mhm.
But there's always a takeaway. And so that's kind of what I love about events. When you go, you meet somebody or maybe you're the one sowing the seed into somebody, but there's always some level of exchange.
Yeah. And it's creating real connections. I
Yeah.
it's really interesting to see how we went from COVID and everything being so remote, so distant and disconnected. And I really love the phrase, we're more connected than ever. Um,
Yeah.
but truly we have less human connection than ever. And I think being in the event space is really creating those moments where people can create real, meaningful, long-term connection,
Yeah.
especially in today's world. And as entrepreneurs as well, we tend to be quite isolated because we're working so much and working so hard. So it's great that you are still, attending events and, you know, owning that space and letting people
Yeah.
know what you're doing, which is very, very exciting. So, as we wrap the podcast up, I'm so grateful for having you here, telling your story as a new entrepreneur. And you are buzzworthy because look at what you've done in just a few months, really.
Months. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm happy to celebrate this success with you, reaching your 1 year milestone, and
Thank you.
absolutely excited to see what you're going to be doing in the future and what's next for
Yes.
Modeen Events. So, I'm going to ask you for three things.
Okay.
One word for your experience this past year
One word from my experiences last year.
as an entrepreneur.
Um, as an entrepreneur, um, consistency.
That's a good one. That's a
Consistency.
Yeah. Give me two words for, give me two things that you learned this year.
Two things that I learned. Communication will make or break an event.
Hmm.
It's in everything you do. And you are the communications hotline, right? You are the point of contact for everything and everyone. Especially if you are yeah, you are the point of contact. So everything flows through you. You're supposed to know everything. And if you don't know everything, you still have to eat it, take that accountability. You can't say they didn't communicate this to me or so on and so forth. The onus is on you. So that's number one. Number two is enjoy the moment. Um,
Moment.
I I have like no like when I'm working events, people tell me all the time, like I look so serious, and it's because I'm trying to make sure that everything is happening and I can, I'm making sure it's working. But then there's moments where I'm kind of like I have to take it in, like, wow, you did a lot of work and it's working, and though you're exhausted and all the things, relish in that moment of execution to say, okay, you did that. pat yourself on the back. There's so much more that you can do. So just receive um, the moment and and celebrate yourself, you know?
Yeah, I love that. So that's communication
Yeah.
and enjoying the moment.
Uh, yeah.
Two things you learned from this here. And then third thing is, what is one thing you're absolutely taking forward for yourself and for your business?
Taking for myself and for my business is to know that my business is myself. And what I put into it is what I'm going to get out of it. And I have to take pride in it, and I have to know that it's not small. I know it's a small business, but I just know that there's God has a really big plan for me, and to just kind of like go through the process. There's processes for everything. Where I'm starting is not where I'm going to finish, and so just keep learning. Never think that you know everything. I don't know everything. I'm always asking for help, or or guidance. Humility is everything, um, and just to keep a good attitude. Like, so that's what I would say to to myself. Yeah.
Those are incredible things for, I think, all of us to take away. And
Yeah.
it's so great to see that, you've really honed into consistency because
Yeah.
consistency does move the needle forward. We're always going to be working on communication. And
Yeah.
I think number one, like we always forget that we're creating something from scratch and that is actually very, very hard and people don't really understand. And often it's tied to our identities as entrepreneurs in a lot
Yeah.
of ways. And so living in the moment and truly, like you said, patting yourself on the back is one of the best things we can do to get us to the next level. And as we look forward to
Yeah.
the future, we absolutely, should be excited for that and, just dive right into that next step. And I'm excited to see what Modeen Event does next. Hopefully I'll be at one of your events soon and we'll have a
Yes, you
chance on the
are.
dance floor.
Yes, you are. I have two events for you actually coming up for you to be at.
All right, I'll be there. I'll be there. Well, thank you so much, Monique, for telling us your story. Um, it's an incredible one, and I hope you're proud of you. I'm proud of you,
Yeah.
and we
Thank
can't wait to see what's next for Modeen Events.
thank you so much, Alexia. I really appreciate you. But you're my first podcast ever as well. And you made it so great. I feel so comfortable. Look forward to being on it again.
All right, awesome. Well, everyone, definitely follow Modeen Events and Monique on all socials. We'll have everything down at the bottom in the description, and she looks forward to getting a call for you to book your corporate event. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We're so glad to have you as part of our Buzzworthy community as we grow our network of buzzworthy businesses. Continue to follow us on all the social media platforms at buzzworthy_pod and follow us on whatever platform you're listening to so that you can get the new episodes as soon as they're out. This Buzzworthy podcast could not be done without our incredible team, starting with our music by Khaled Imam, our video and sound engineer, James Clark, Yvette Robichaux, our social media manager, Cesar Cardania, our brand and creative lead, and finally, your host and executive producer, Shalacia Harris. We'll see you next week.